I hope you are doing good. So today we are going to start with the next lecture of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, yani BNS. So in the last class, we have discussed about the few definitions of the BNS and we have discussed about the preliminary provisions of the BNS, in which we discussed that what are the basic circumstances of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and why this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita came into force. And the most important thing we have discussed the applicability of this Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, like where this act is being applicable. And inside the India, what is the applicability of this act, and outside the India, what is the applicability of this act? This is all the things we discussed under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita according to the section 1, the preliminary provision. Okay, the subtitle preliminary provisions we have discussed it all. So coming to the further parts, today we are going to discuss about the definition parts, in which we are going to discuss the basic required definitions on the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In this Sanhita, unless context otherwise requires, the first definition that indicates the word act. The word act, it denotes a single act or a series of activity. Okay. So the question arises when I'm talking about there is a series of the activities. You may ask me like how we are considering the series of the activities. Okay, let me explain it. Okay, for example, when I'm talking about the series of the activities or the single activity, I am going on the road. You are coming behind and just taking my pulse and running away. Okay, so here it is considered as a single activity. मैं रास्ते में जा रही हूँ, अपने पीछे से आए, मेरी हैंडबैग जो है या फिर मेरे पास कुछ सोना है, मैं पकड़ी हुई हूँ, तो आपने उसको लेके भाग गए। वो क्या हुआ? चोरी हो गया, थेफ्ट। तो दैट इज अ सिंगल एक्टिविटी, तो दैट इज ऑल्सो एन एक्ट। सीरीज ऑफ द एक्ट क्या है? आप लोगों ने मिलके प्लान बनाया कि चलो मैम के घर पे घुस के चोरी करते हैं। तो आप लोगों ने उस प्लान को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए पहले मेरे घर का पता लगाया, मेरे घर का डिटेल्स निकाला, मैं कहाँ पे रहती हूँ। उसके बाद आपने ये चीज की छानबीन की कि मैं घर कब आती जाती हूँ, मेरा जो घर आना जाना रहता है वो किस टाइम से मैं घर आती हूँ, किस टाइम से घर से जाती हूँ। ने इस बात का अंदाजा लगाया। फिर वो चीज क्लियर होने के बाद आपको दूसरा चीज ये क्लियर होना था कि अगर मैं मतलब अगर आप उसी टाइम पे आ रहे हो जब मैं घर पे नहीं हूँ, क्या वो सेफ है? क्या उसी टाइम पे मेरे घर के आसपास आसपास कोई पड़ोसन है जो चोरी होते हुए देखने का रिस्क है? ये सब आपने कंफर्म किया। उसके बाद यू डिड द एक्टिविटी ऑफ द हाउस ब्रेकिंग। आपने आया, घर का दरवाजा तोड़ा या फिर घर का जो ताला लगा हुआ था, घर का ताला तोड़ा, घर के अंदर घुसे, घर से सामान लिए। फिर मान लो कि वहां पे मेरा एक कुत्ता है जिसको मैंने पाल रखा है, और कुत्ता जब भौंकना शुरू किया अपने कुत्ते को मार दिए और वहां से भाग गए। सोचिए, हियर द मेन मोटो इज रबेरी। आपको घर से सामान लूटना है, राइट? ये सर नो। तो सामान लूटने के चक्कर पे यू डिड ए सीरीज ऑफ द एक्टिविटी, जहां पे आपका एक एक्टिविटी के साथ 6-7 एक्टिविटी आपस पे जुड़े हुए हैं। तो क्या है? जैसा कि मैंने बोला, पहले आप लोगों ने प्लान बनाया कि उनके घर पे लूट करना है। दैट इज द एक्ट ऑफ द क्रिमिनल कंस्पिरेसी, है ना? समझ में आ रहा है? हमने पढ़ा था सेक्शन 102 के अंदर, आईपीसी के, जहाँ पे हम लोगों ने क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी के बारे में पढ़ा था। लेट मी चेक इट, एक्चुअली ये आईपीसी का कौन सा प्रोविजन पे था। सेक्शन 120 ए एंड 120 बी ऑफ द इंडियन पेनल कोड दैट हैज बीन कन्वर्टेड टू सेक्शन 60 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. See, section 61, yeah. Section 61 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which says about the criminal conspiracy. Okay. And if we're talking about the Indian Penal Code, that will be considered, according to the Indian Penal Code, it was considered under section 120A and 120B. Okay, you got it? So here we have talked about the series of the activity. Okay, the series of the activity means that is a bunch of the activity that has been done one after another. For example, when I talked about that you guys have made a plan that you want to do a robbery in my house, then at the first instance you did the act of the criminal conspiracy 128 of the IPC, that is section 60 of the BNS. Okay, so yeah, section 61 of the BNS. So here at the first instance आपने ये चीज आपका दिमाग में लाया कि आपको हमारे मेरे घर पे घुस के रबेरी करना है। तो पहले आपने उसके लिए एक प्लान बनाया, उसके लिए आपने प्रिपरेशन किया। ओके, आपका पहले मोटिव था, उसके बाद आपका इंटेंशन क्लियर हुआ, उसके बाद आपने प्रिपरेशन किया। प्रिपरेशन के बाद आपने आपका प्लान का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन किया। आपने क्या किया? आपने घर का ताला तोड़ के घर के अंदर घुसा। दैट इज कॉल्ड व्हाट? हाउस ब्रेकिंग। समझ में आ रहा है? हाउस ब्रेकिंग। हाउस ब्रेकिंग के बाद आपने दोबारा दूसरा एक्टिविटी क्या किया? रॉबेरी, घर का सामान उठाया। फिर रॉबेरी के बाद आपने फिर से क्या किया? मेरा घर पे एक कुत्ता है, आपने उस कुत्ते को मार दिया, मर्डर। उसके बाद आप वहां से भाग गए। सो द ऑल दीज एक्टिविटीज एक दूसरे से आपस में जुड़े हुए हैं। जहाँ पे पहले आप क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी करते हो, उसके बाद आपको प्लानिंग करना होता है, उसके बाद आप हाउस ब्रेकिंग करते हो, उसके बाद आप रॉबेरी करते हो, उसी के बाद आप मर्डर करते हो और फिर आप भाग जाते हो। सो दिस इज द सीरीज ऑफ द एक्टिविटी, बट दिस इज कंसिडर्ड एज द पार्ट ऑफ द वन एक्ट, दैट इज द रॉबेरी। क्योंकि रॉबेरी करने को गए थे, रॉबेरी करते करते, सामान चुराते चुराते इतने सारे कांड करके आ गए आप लोग। समझ में आ रहा है? So here, this 5 to 6 kind of the activity is concluded under one activity. वहां पे जो 6-7 तरीके का काम आपने किया है, सामान चुराने से शुरू करके, रॉबरी करने से शुरू करके, जितने भी सारा काम आपने यहाँ पे किया है, that is all included under one act. वो सबको मिला के हम एक ही एक्ट बोलेंगे। जो एक्ट denotes to the single act और a series of the act. अकेला एक एक्ट हो या दैट इज अ सीरीज ऑफ द एक्ट, एक से ज्यादा एक्टिविटी एक आपस से मिले हुए हैं, एक दूसरे के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है। अगर ये बात पूछा जाता है कि आप अगर हाउस ब्रेकिंग किए, घर का दरवाजा तोड़े, तो क्यों तोड़े? रॉबरी करने के लिए। अपने कुत्ते को मारा, क्यों मारा? चोरी करने के लिए। समझ में आ रहा है? तो यहाँ पे एक एक्टिविटी दूसरे से आपस में जुड़े हुए हैं, so that is considered the series of the act or a single act altogether. Okay, so here the second word that explains about the animals. The animals, that means any living creature, okay, other than a human being. So when we're talking about the term animal, it means any living creature which other than a human being. Because, yeah, I told you one more thing. According to the law, there is no specific provisions for the species. जैसे कि we know there are the genus and species, आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा ना, species किसको बोलते हैं? जैसे कि reptiles हो गया, birds हो गया, animals हो गया। तो ये सारे ना जीनस स्पीसीज अलग अलग होते हैं। हर हर एक डिफरेंट तरह का जो मतलब एनिमल होते हैं, उनको हम डिफरेंट डिफरेंट पार्ट में डिवाइड करते हैं, राइट? ये तो आपको पता ही होगा। So when we're talking about the species or the genus, then we know very carefully that this term animal, this term animal means any living creature other than the human being. इंसान को छोड़ के अगर कोई भी जिंदा लिविंग क्रिएचर है जिसके अंदर जान है, that person is called as the animal. Okay. The third point it says about the child. And the third child means the person below the age of 18 years. In the third clause, the definition of the child has been explained, in which the meaning of the child is the meaning of the child is the person who is below the 18 years. अगर एक बच्चे को या फिर एक इंसान को हम चाइल्ड बोल रहे हैं, तो ये चीज का ध्यान रखना जरूरी है दैट द चाइल्ड मस्ट बी बिलो 18 years old. वो एक माइनर होना चाहिए, उसका उम्र 18 साल से कम होना चाहिए, तभी वी कैन call the kid as a child. Okay. Then the next point it says about the counterfeit. We have already understood the basic examples of the counterfeit जहाँ पे हमने डिस्कस किया था that a person is said to counterfeit, okay, who causes one thing to resemble other, okay, and thirdly, uh, we have understood that the counterfeit means a person who, whose resemblance to the practice deception are knowing to be likely that are completely throughout. Okay. So here, whenever we're talking about the counterfeit definition, then it is very simple. It says that if if a person is said to counterfeit a document who causes to one thing or resemble other thing. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जैसे कि मेरे पास 500 का नोट है, ओके, तो आपने उस 500 का जाल नोट बनवाया, दैट इज कॉल्ड द काउंटरफिट, दैट इज कॉल्ड द रिजम्बलेंस, जहां पे या दैट इज कॉल्ड द रिजम्बलेंस, जहां पे आपका एक चीज दूसरी चीज का बराबर दिखता है. जैसे कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल देयर इज ए फ्रॉड इन द note production company. You have must heard about the fraudulent notes. Okay. So वहां पे क्या होता है ना, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे पास 100 रुपए का नोट है, उससे 100 रुपए का नोट का बराबर उसके एग्जैक्ट दिखने वाला दूसरा 100 रुपए का नोट मिल जाता है. दैट इज कॉल्ड द एक्ट ऑफ द काउंटरफिट. गॉट इट? जहां पे आपको का अपना चीज के साथ रिजेंबल यानी सिमिलर यानी बराबर दिखने वाला कोई भी चीज अगर मिल रहा है, intending by means of that resemblance to practice would depend knowingly to be likely that the deception will be thereby be praised. Okay. So here, then we are talking about the point of the counterfeit we have understood, where it is said that a person is said to counterfeit who causes one thing to resemble another thing, intending by means of all resemblance of the practice depend on knowing it to be likely that yeah likely to that to be deception in the that way. Okay. So here the subsection, the section 2 says that the definition clauses, okay, and then the fourth point it says about yeah, fourth point has said about the counterfeit, okay. Then we are going to discuss the basic two explanations of this, okay, which seems very important. The first explanation said that it is essential to counterfeiting that the limitation should be exist. Okay. So here, the it is not essential to counterfeit that the limitation should be exact. That means, when we are talking about the imitation should be exact. That is not essential. That means, for example, if I am producing the counterfeit note of the rupees 500, then the question arises, right? Here, according to the explanation one, this is the very important thing जहाँ पे ये चीज बताया गया कि it is not essential to counterfeiting that the imitation should be exact. Explanation 2 says, when a person causes one thing to resemble, okay, okay. So when the person causes one thing to resemble, and okay, and uh, another thing, the resemblance of such that the person might be deceived thereby, it shall be presumed until the contrary is proved. Okay. So here we're talking about the definition of the uh, res yeah, exception of the resemblance. Okay. So before this, we have discussed in details a portion of the counterfeit. Okay. So after discussing the point of the counterfeit, we are going to yeah, I'm going to discuss it more upon the basic explanations first. The first explanation says that it is not essential to counterfeiting that the imitation should be exact. That means whatever is the nature of the imitations, imitations का nature कुछ भी हो. Got it? The main thing is, yeah. So the main thing is when the imitation should be exact or should not be exact. Imitation का मतलब क्या है? मतलब जो कोई भी सामान का कॉपी किया जा रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल दिस इज अ ईयरबड. अगर इसी का एग्जैक्ट बराबर का एग्जैक्ट दिखने वाला दूसरा ईयरबड बनाया दिया जाता है, देन इसी को बोलते हैं हम इमिटेशन. जहां पे आपका एक चीज का नकल होके दूसरा चीज बन जाता है, राइट? और आप अपना ही चीज जैसा दूसरा कोई बनाते हो. ओके. ओके. सो हियर So here, when we're talking about the explanation one, it says that it is not essential to counterfeiting that the imitation should be exact. Okay. So here, when we're talking about the explanation two, this says that when a person causes one thing resemble another thing, and resemblance is such that a person might be deceived thereby, it shall be presumed until the contrary is proved that the such person is so calming that uh yeah, that the resemblance practiced deception or knew it likely the deception works thereby practiced. Okay. So here, uh when we're talking about the definition of the court, the definition of the court means the judge who is empowered by law to act judicially alone, or the body of the judges which is empowered by the law or act of judiciary as a body. Such judge or body uh, of the judges of the acting judicially. Okay. So यहाँ पे एक्सप्लेनेशन टू के बाद हमारा दो चीज आता है. पहला चीज क्या आता है हमारा? द डेफिनेशन ऑफ द कोर्ट. ओके. ये गला पहला चीज. दूसरा हुआ द डेफिनेशन ऑफ द डेथ. ये गया तीसरा चीज. ओके. So here we are talking about the definition of the court. The court means a judge who is empowered by law that the deception would thereby be practiced. Okay. So I was talking about the explanation. The explanation too, it says a very important part. It says that when a person causes one thing resemble the another thing, it is not necessary or not mandatory that the uh, person who is doing this resemblance, it should be 100% resemble to each other. Okay. Person who is doing the resemblance, if the person is unable to prove that why he was doing so, then it will be considered, it will be assumed that the resemblance has been done to practice the deception or knew it to be likely that the uh, deception would be thereby practiced. Okay. So the section explanation two says the very important thing. It says that the act of the like the act of the counterfeiting or the resemblance. It is not always mandatory or always the necessary that the resemblance should be exact. But if the similarity or resemblance is creating any kind of the confusion in the mind of the customer, okay, or the might of the people who is about to take the thing, if it is creating any kind of the confusion for the third party, then that is a valid resemblance. That is a valid counterfeiting, right? So here, when the person causes causes one thing to resume the another thing, and the resemblance is such that a person might be deceived, uh, the person might be deceived the cause. Okay. So here the so here the person who is doing the resemblance, he must have the basic right to resemble one thing intended by means of that resemblance to practice December 1 thing. Yeah, from the December 1 thing, and most importantly, Uh, yeah, and most importantly, that resemblance should not be 100% accurate with the original one. This is the first point. The second point is, until the contrary is proved, that the person so causing the one thing resemble the another thing means of that resemblance to practice deception or knew it like the deception would thereby practiced. There is no valid cause of doing that. Just like, for example, there is a company that is Bata. Okay. So what I did, I made another company with the name of Bata, but I put some other logo nearby the name. Okay. And started selling the shoes and the products. Okay. So here, when you are talking about the yeah. So whenever you are talking about the product, okay, it is very, very important that the explanation too says that, okay, the explanation too says that the person who is practicing or who is causing one thing to resemble the another thing, okay, by, yeah. So here, it's all the post model. And the most important thing is the in this kind of the activity, the resemblance creates a similarity in which it also creates the confusion. जैसे कि अभी हम ये सब पढ़ रहे थे कि for example I am creating a new company with a new logo in the name of the Bata. Okay, I started selling those shoes, okay, and I have earned sufficient amount from that. Okay, so here in this situation, the person who is doing the resemblance. If the resemblance or the activity of the similaring the things, if it is creating any kind of the confusion in the mind of the general public, अगर वो एक्टिविटी के वजह से पब्लिक लोगों के माइंड पे किसी भी तरह का लाइक द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आता है या फिर किसी भी तरह का कंफ्यूजन आता है, then that is called an act of the resemblance. Okay, let's take another example of this, the act of the resemblance. Okay, for example, uh, A and B are the two parties. Okay, here when a person causes one thing to resemble another thing, and the resemblant it's such a yeah, and the resemblant person that a person might have deceived thereby. Okay, it shall be presumed until the contrary is proved that the person so causing the one thing to resemble other thing intended by the mean of that resemblance to practice the deception, knew it likely to be the deception would thereby surprise. Okay. So here, when we're talking about the explanation, so we understood it clearly that the deception needs the deception needs the similarity, and if there is a similarity in between the any act of the parties, then the parties has the right to claim for their basic rights. For example, if there is a another company is existing with my same name, with my same logo, then people are buying things from buying a company, right? So here, in these specific circumstances, the resemblance comes into always. Got it? Then comes the subsection 5. This is the subsection of the which defines about the court. Okay. So when we're talking about the subsection 5, it says that the the word court, the word court, it means a judge who is empowered by law and act judicially. Okay. Okay. So here, when we're talking about the helpless true, right, father? Here, we are talking about the definition of the court. The court means the judge who is empowered by law and to act judiciary alone or to the depressed person. Okay. So here, the court means a judge who is empowered by law to act judicially alone. जुडिशियरी पे हम जो कोर्ट का नाम देते हैं ना, वहां पे आ, क्या वहां पे where it is it is the it is the it is the definition of the basic parties. For example, if we are talking about the court, then if it is the court of the junior division judge, then it will be the court of the judicial magistrate first class. Then it will be come to the judicial magistrate second class. Then we will come to the chief judicial magistrate, then the district court, and then the high court. Okay. But here, when we are talking about the definition of the court, this means when a person judges who is empowered by, sorry for the interruption. Okay. So we have talked about the definition of the court, and we have discussed under that the court means a judge who is empowered by the law to act judicially alone. The court does not indicate any separate courts, or it basically indicates the court of the specific judges who are empowered by law to act or to take the judicial decision. For example, I have just told you recently that if it is the court of the judicial magistrate first class, it will be called as the court of the judicial JMFC. Then if it is the court of the chief judicial magistrate, then it will be called as the court of the CJM. Got it? So here, the subsection 5, it says about the court, that means the judge who is empowered by law or to act judicially alone, or the body of the judges, okay, which is empowered by law or to act judicially. Okay. So when it says about the definition of the court, this means a yeah, this means the court indicates the specific courts only. The court means uh yeah, the court means there is a judge who is empowered by law to act under that court. For example, the court of the chief judicial magistrate, court of the judicial magistrate first class, court of the district judge, court of the session judge. You got me? But yes, the district court and the district and the session court and the high court, they are considered as also the courts. Okay. So ये जो है ना, this is empowered by law or to act judicially as a body, and such judge or body of judges is acting judicially. That comes under the definition of the court, in which the court means a judge who is empowered by law to act judicially alone. Okay, and which is empowered by the law to act judicially as a body, when such judge or body uh, of the judicial magistrate first class or second class, or the CJM, or the High Court Justice, or it might be Chief Justice, or it might be the Justice of the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is the definition of the court. The court basically divided in various parts: the court of the judicial magistrate first class, the court of judicial magistrate second class, the Chief Judicial Magistrate. Then it is the court of the like the uh, district and the session court. Then it comes to the High Court, and then it comes to the Supreme Court. Okay. So here the court means a judge who is empowered by law to act judicially alone, or a body of the judges who is compared by the law automatically as a body. Yeah, automatically or judicially as a body of the justice system. When a judge or judges is acting judicially. Okay. तो ये हो गया आपका सबसेक्शन 5। सबसेक्शन 6 पे आते हैं। ये क्या बोलता है? This says that the death means the death of the death means the death of the human being unless contrary appears for the context. That means अगर that means यहाँ पे अगर हम डेथ के बारे में बात करते हैं ना, the death of the human being unless the contrary appears in the context. जब तक कोई इंसान का मौत नहीं हो जाता, the person who is considered as a human being, if he or she is dying, it is considered as a death under the Indian Penal Code. Okay. So here, the next point says about the dishonesty. Dishonestly. Dishonestly means doing anything with the intention of causing wrongful gain to one another. Okay. So here, when we are talking about the primary things, like, the dishonestly means doing anything with the intention of causing wrongful gain. Uh, yeah, and dishonesty means does anything with the intention of causing wrongful pain to one person or wrongful loss to another person. Okay. So here, the next terms, these terms basically means the terms dishonestly. It is there now. So dishonestly basically indicates which says about doing any kind of the activity, it, any kind of the activity, which means the doing anything with the intention of causing wrongful gain to one person or wrongful loss to other person. That means you already know that if you are doing that activity, that is an dishonest activity, that is not honest in nature, that is not valid in nature. एंड आपका उस काम की वजह से उसी इंसान को कुछ भी आ, उसके साथ कुछ भी गलत हो सकता था, राइट? डिसऑनेस्ट मीन्स जहाँ पे आपको पता है कि अगर आप ये काम कर रहे हो तो उसका consequences क्या होगा. You better know that due to your dishonest activity, your wrongful activity or your wrongful gain, the another person might be suffered. That is called the definition of the dishonestly. It means doing anything with the intention of causing wrongful gain to one tourist. Okay. So here, the dishonest thing we have understood. Okay. Then comes the document. It means the doing anything with the intention of causing wrongful pain to one person or wrongful loss to the other person. Okay. So where is the okay? Then comes the definition document. The document means any matter expressed or described upon money describes upon any substance of the maternal letters and here. So here the document means any matter that is expressed or described upon the substance of the means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than any uh, yeah, and by more than any kind of the document which is used, it might be the electronic or digital record, or it might be the pen paper record. Okay. So यहाँ पे जो definition document है ना, that includes a lot of things. Got me? So uh, यहाँ पे the definition of the document means any matter expressed or described upon the substance by means of letters. For example, letters, figures, or marks. For example, for your specific task or specific work, you are writing letters. You are putting certain marks. You are putting certain figures. Okay, that is called the signal document. Signal document, or more than one. Yeah, and more than one thing. It says that the document is not only included the whole document, right? It means the document means any matter expressed. It means any matter expressed or described upon the substance of the meanings of the letter and yeah. So here the document there has two more things has been mentioned here. Okay. The first thing is the electronic record and the digital record has been added over here. You see, in the day-to-day life, whenever we are talking about the documentation, most of the drafting stuffs, most of the electronic stuffs, most of the digital record, that is very, very important in our life, right? So here, when we are talking about the documents, we know that it means any matter expressed or described upon the substance by means of the letters, figures, or the maps. Okay. And किसी भी तरह का लेटर हो गया, ड्राफ्टिंग हो गया, पेन पेपर पर किसी भी तरह का लिखावट हो गया, फिगर्स हो गया, या फिर किसी भी तरह का ड्राफ्ट हो गया. यू गॉट इट? सो हियर in this specific circumstances. Okay, in this specific situation, when we're talking about the definition of the document, it means it might be the letters, figures, or marks. See this person I have highlighted, or by more than one of those means, it includes the electronic and digital record. That means the term document does not require or does not include only the handwritten or drafted uh, letter. Okay. So here, uh, the yeah. So here the important things. Okay. So here the important figures are the marks, excluding the letters, figures, or the marks. Any kind of the document, any kind of the drafting, which is stored in the digital record or the electronic record, and it has the intention to be used in the on the latter phase. That is called the uh, that is called the document itself. Okay. So here this term document under subsection 8 of section 2 not only includes the written document or the drafted document, but also included the electronic document and the digital record, which has the intention that this document or this record is going to be used and which may be used as evidence of that matter. Then comes the explanation one. It is immaterial by what means? Puja, yeah. So in that, in what specific sense it will be used? Okay. So the explanation one says it is immaterial by what means and yeah. So here the term document specifies the explanation clause. Okay. So here the explanation one says it is immaterial by what means the yeah. It is immediately by which means or upon the substance of रहेंगे and, and and the second most important thing is when the explanation one is there. It is immaterial by what means and upon what the substance of the letters, figures, and marks are uh, found, or whether the evidence is intended for or may be caused in the court or not. Okay. So the explanation here says that it is immaterial by what means upon what substance of the letters, figures, or marks are found, whether the evidence is intended or may be used in the court or not. It means it is immaterial that what are the means or what are the ways in which the letters, figures, or the marks has been formed or created. And if the evidence is clear, if it is very clear uh, for the purpose of proving something, it is not mandatory to consider that it can be used in the court or not. This is called in the explanation one. So I have completed till the subsection 8, the phase of the document. It means the letter or the uh, figures or the marks or the electronic and the digital record, which is intended to be used and which is used as the evidence. So from subsection 9 onwards, we are going to discuss in the next class. This is all for today, guys. We can end the class here. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.